The Africk can tail way, hiking 45 miles through the rugged west coast of Scotland. Stretching from Loch Ness to Loch Duich, this scenic trail offers up the best of the Scottish wilderness. I'd be hiking this trail in the middle of the Scottish winter. With nothing but the essentials in my backpack, I'd be living life to the full and exploring everything the trail threw my way. Life on the trail is simple. Walk, eat, sleep, and walk again. I'd pass by mountains, explore remote bothies, and gaze at awe-inspiring waterfalls. So with 45 miles and 6,000 feet of elevation ahead of me, all I had to do is get up, get moving, and take it on one step at a time. The journey began on the west coast. We made our way through a small village and arrived at the start point of the trail. So this is the start or end of the African Tailway, depending which way you're doing it. And we're heading in that direction. Looks pretty amazing. So, the African Tailway, 45 miles of wild, rugged and remote wilderness in Scotland. Safe to say I'm excited for this one. The weather forecast for the next few days is pretty much as good as it can get for winter in Scotland. But it gets dark at about 4 PM, and once that sun goes away it'll be really cold. So I need to make sure to wrap up warm, but got boots on my feet and there's miles to be walked, and the thought of that alone is enough to keep me happy. The trail started on a Land Rover track. We followed along beside the river and already felt fully immersed into nature. The ice on the ground and snow-capped mountains all around us gave a nice winter feel to the place. We have just left a wee town or settlement called Morvich, and the next one we come into will be Canich in about 50 kilometres time. So the stretch in between that is just really remote and wild. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. Sounds amazing. I think it's pretty common to do this trail starting in Drumnadrocket and finishing at Morvich, but we've decided to do it in the opposite direction just because the bus time back to the car is slightly earlier, but it shouldn't affect the views too much. All we need to do is turn around and look at that up to those mountains. Incredible start. There's a real alpine feel to these mountains around us, just with the snow at the tops. Absolutely amazing though. There's just a thin layer of ice on top of all the rock here, so it makes the walking quite hard. You need to definitely watch where you're going. Really trying to take my time and appreciate the scenery around me on this trail. Too many times when I'm hiking, don't properly appreciate where I am until I'm home, but right now there are mountains all around me and this is just an amazing place to be, so really trying to take it in. It's pretty amazing. We've not done too much ascent so far, but we're heading for that snow-covered mountain in the distance there, and that looks like the most ascent of the day. There's only about 400 metres of ascent today, and I think about 300 metres of it is just up ahead, so once we've done that we can walk on the flat, which will be nice. This place is absolutely crawling with sheep. That's pretty much all we've seen so far in terms of wildlife. But look at that view, wow. I'll never get over that. We continued down the glen, and pretty quickly our luck with wildlife seemed to be changing. Wow, there's a bunch of mountain goats up there. Don't know if you can see them on the rocks just there. There's quite a few of them. We thought they were deer to start off with, but they're too dark to be a deer. We've just stumbled upon this memorial hut and we're just taking a moment to take a break. You can't get inside, but wait till you see this view in front of me. Wow, you don't get much better than this. Just look at that. Wow. Snow-capped mountains. That is absolutely beautiful. We took full advantage of a running water tap to fill up our bottles, and then got back on the trail. As we left the hut behind, the path seemed to get more interesting as we passed over the river several times. We're about 10 kilometres in and it's just getting better and better. We've gone down to a single trail now instead of that Land Rover track, so it's getting a lot more interesting and the views are absolutely amazing. So yeah, keep going, get up this 300 metres of ascent. We began the 300 metre ascent up the windy trail, and this was the most enjoyable section so far. A stone pathway had been created to make the climb easier, and blue skies ahead gave us extra incentive to keep going. I feel like I'm in Lord of the Rings right now with this trail, just winding its way through the mountains. Look at that view. Wow. We're almost there. Keep going. Look at that. That waterfall is absolutely amazing. Not sure how tall that is, but it must be like 30 or 40 feet. Pretty amazing. You can just feel the power of that waterfall. Just the sound of it. Absolutely immense. And it doesn't look too bad either. We made our way up the trail to the highest point, and the views opened up to the mountains surrounding us. We spotted a herd of deer on the hillside, and after a bit more walking, decided it was time for a break. This trail being Scotland's newest trail, I thought the paths would maybe be a bit dodgy, but they seem to be pretty good so far. Just a single track we've been following, and we're about 9 miles in. But yeah, no complaints so far. This must be a high point up here. And the views over are absolutely amazing. We're just following the trail all the way down this glen. I'm not sure if this is Glen Africk. This area feels so remote. It's really peaceful. And the wind has just completely disappeared now, so there is not a sound if I stop. Literally not a sound. And we haven't seen anyone yet either, so this trail has been unbelievable so far. Got quite a few Munros around us. Up to the right is Kisti Du, and I think over there might be Mulach Frack, and then over to the left is Ansoka, and then maybe Mam Sodale further up to the left. I've probably butchered those pronunciations, but you know what I'm talking about. We passed by the most scenic bothy I've ever seen, but with no need to stop yet, we continued on and dropped into Glen Africk. We're currently about 11 miles in, and we're planning on doing about 15 miles each day, just so it's split up evenly. We've got about an hour and a half left of sunlight, and we're currently approaching the Albeath hostel, I think it's pronounced. So I'll probably just take a break there, get a snack, and then continue on and start looking for a camp spot maybe at about 3:30ish. We approached Scotland's most remote youth hostel, hoping to take a break, but unfortunately it was closed up for the winter time. The hostel was closed, unfortunately. We were hoping to get in to have a look around, but it's about 3:30 right now and we're starting to lose light, so we're just going to continue on until we find a good spot to pitch the tents. With it starting to get dark, we searched for a spot to pitch the tents, and after some looking, decided to settle on a nice spot alongside the River Africk. We've just finished dinner, just had a chicken tikka ready meal, but it's only about 6 PM right now, so still pretty early, but it's pitch black outside, so we'll probably just have an early night, and I'll see you guys again in the morning. Morning everyone, it's day 2 on the African tailway. Last night was the coldest I've ever felt it. You'd go and get water from the stream, and by the time you're back at your tent it's starting to freeze already. There was actually a lot of frost on the inside of the tent, but luckily I was nice and warm in my sleeping bag. But we've got another 15 miles to walk today, heading up through the glen, going by Loch Africk and I think Loch Benamadine. So yeah, it should be a really exciting day. Look at that. Wow. The sun hasn't quite risen yet, so there's just a bit of glow to the sky and a lot of mist hanging in the glen. And I think we're heading through that glen there, and the loch will be somewhere behind these mountains. That's literally the first sign we've seen. There's not too many signs along here. It's pretty easy not to get lost though, because we're pretty much just following the River Africk all the way to the loch. So yeah, you can't really go wrong. Just look at that. That is incredible. 2 different sides. Below dead misty and then just snow-capped mountains right above it. Unbelievable. If you're thinking about doing this trail, then definitely do it. I know we've lucked out with the weather, but every corner you turn, just something new to see. It's just, the mountains all around you. Feels so remote. Haven't seen like anyone. It's incredible. This looks like someone's house we're coming down to now. Imagine living there. It was an icy cold morning, so we were keen to get the miles in and leave the snowy mountains behind us. This is the start of Loch Africk. I think it continues on for about 6 kilometres in that direction. It's looking like today's going to be another day of incredible weather. There's not a cloud in the sky, and there's just a bit of mist behind me hanging in the glen. Wow, what a place to be. I feel so lucky to be here right now. This is incredible. Just following this track in amongst the frosted trees. Absolutely beautiful, and then every so often it opens up like that and you get that amazing view of Loch Africk. Wow, that's incredible. Really is so peaceful right now. There's not a breath of wind in the air, and it's just frost everywhere, covering all the trees, the mountains, the shrubs. Yeah, a winter wonderland. It's absolutely amazing. Look at that. The gaps in the trees just open up unbelievable views down Glen Africk. Wow. I finally got that hat off and it feels absolutely amazing. Had that on for about a day straight. The walking so far today has been fairly easy. It's pretty flat. We actually go down more than we go up today. Down about 500 metres and we only go up 250. And we're just following a Land Rover track, which is fairly easy. But we're about to go by Glen Africk Lodge, which I think is pretty famous. I think one of the royals' husband lives in it, or maybe their dad. I don't know too much about it, but it's just a really big house that looks down Glen Africk. So hopefully we'll get a peek into that and see how nice it is. The hat is back on, it's too cold to not have it on. But this is beautiful, just walking in amongst the trees right now. It's a lot different to the scenery we were getting yesterday. It's nice to have that variation. You can see just how cold it is. Collected this water this morning and it's completely filled with ice. So just going to collect some water from this stream and then I'm going to have to boil it to get rid of all this ice. I thought I was going to melt it straight away. Boiled this water about 10 minutes ago and it's already absolutely freezing. That is mental. Some of the freshest water I've ever drank though. It's really nice. We continued along the track, sheltered by the trees, but we started to get hungry, so decided to take a break. Frozen sandwiches. That is mental. Because we're in amongst the trees right now, you don't really get too many views. So it's nice when it opens up and you can look at the views down the glen and onto the lochs. Look at this viewpoint out over the loch down Glen Africk. That is amazing. A spot like that would be great to pitch the tents for tonight. But continue on. Still got about 3 hours of sunlight, so we'll just continue on until we find a good spot. We're planning to hopefully reach Canich, but if we don't reach that, it's not the end of the world. We'll just have slightly more to do tomorrow. It is eerily quiet right now, like if I stop moving. You cannot hear a thing. I haven't seen any wildlife or any people today. So we're hitting a new level of peaceful. It's pretty good. The final mile of the day was a steep descent into the village of Canich. The village was quiet, and there seemed to be no one around. The trail passed through a peaceful forest, so we decided to get the tents up before it was dark. That's me in the tent for the night now. It's about 7 PM and it's pitch black outside. Another 15 miles walk today, and another great day on the African Tailway. A lot different to the first day. The first day was more mountainous and open glens. Today was covered by the trees and we still got really good views over the lochs, and there still was mountains around us, but we just couldn't see as much because of the trees. But it's nice to have that variation. It was really enjoyable. But yeah, I just had the weirdest dinner I probably have ever had in my life. We actually had it on a double-decker bus. It was this sort of like spar that did food, like a sort of cafe / pub type thing. And it was in a bus, had a heater though, and it was really comfortable. Now back to the cold tent. But yeah, I'm just going to cuddle up in my sleeping bag, and I'll see you guys again in the morning. Morning everyone, it's day 3 on the African Tailway. We're currently just leaving a wee town called Canich, and this is the final day. I think it's pretty much just forestry paths that we'll be following for most of today, all the way to Drumnadrocket, and it's about 400 metres of elevation again today. So about 15 miles, should take us maybe 6 hours or so it shouldn't be too bad. Doesn't that just look incredible? Just a path winding its way through frost covered trees. It got down to about -4 last night, and it didn't actually feel as bad as the night before, so I'd really like to know what the temperature was. I think it said before we came that it could get down to about -6 or -7. I wouldn't be surprised. It was absolutely freezing. But yeah, I had a comfortable night's sleep and I'm ready for a day's walking. It feels like we're doing most of the ascent for the day right now. This is really quite hilly, but look at this. Wow, just surrounded by frosted trees. This is absolutely beautiful. So silent as well, so peaceful. We just saw a fox run across the path ahead of us. This place is magical. We're about 3 miles into the 15 so far, and it's pretty much just been straight uphill at the start, so it's nice to be on some flatter ground. But this is really nice. It's so peaceful, and it's so different to the walking we've been doing the past couple of days. We're quite high up right now, I think about 300 metres, and we're just walking in amongst the trees. There's a few hills around us, but nowhere near the size of the mountains in the first couple of days. So yeah, it's nice. We continued along the track, enjoying the fresh air of the winter's morning, and eventually we reached a viewpoint, looking over the glen. It's quite a cloudy day, they're quite low hanging, but I still feel like I can see quite a lot. It's really nice. You can see over that glen, and I think we're heading down into this forest now, which looks pretty amazing. A bit of road walking made for some quick miles. 8 miles to go till we reach Drumnadrocket and the end of the trail. The trail so far today has been really good. This sort of terrain is just perfect for walking. It's quite flat. There was a bit of incline at the start, but all the paths are really good. And once you get walking, you can start to build up quite a bit of speed and get the miles done quite fast, which is really good. It's just more enjoyable. You can actually look around and see what you're doing, see what you're seeing, without having to struggle too much. The signage definitely seems to be a bit better as well. Very easy to follow. We passed through a small settlement called Shenval, and after some more walking, decided to have a break. We got back on the move and headed up through a forest. There is a loch down to our left here. I think Loch Meekley. You can maybe just see the tip of it just there. But the forest is so dense that you can't really see through. There's quite a lot of deforestation around here, but it seems like they've planted a lot back because the forest down to our left is so dense. When you look into it, you can hardly see anything. It just blocks out all the light. It's pretty mental. We continued to gain more elevation along the forestry track, and we could now see all the way down the glen to our left. On the last stretch to the end of the trail now, got about 2 miles to go. Today's been really enjoyable, a lot different to the first 2 days. You could say a bit boring at sometimes, but I still really enjoyed it. Being out in nature is enjoyable wherever you are, I think. I'd highly recommend this trail to anyone who's thinking of giving it a go. You see so many different things. It's about 45 miles, so it's not too long if you're beginning doing these sort of long distance trails. You can do it over 3 days comfortably. A bit harder in the winter, but a lot nicer as well. But yeah, a bit sad to be finishing, but it has been tough at times. So it will be really nice to get some nice food and sit in the warmth for a bit. The final stretch saw us descending through Craigmony woodland. We arrived in Drumnadrocket and made our way to the end point of the trail,